Do not adjust your TV. There is nothing wrong with it. You have entered a realm of loose screws and caulk and seizure-inducing flickering lights. You have entered the RV maintenance zone.
I'm Jason.
And I'm Lori. In 2023, we sold our home and started our new adventure in full-time RV living. We're super excited that you're here joining us for our journey.
And while on our journey, we're going to share with you places we've been, adventures we've had, and tips and tricks we've learned along the way.
So come along with us.
We are
Living between mile markers.
All right, guys. Well, just like living in a sticks and bricks house, RVs, when you're using them full time, even when you're not using them full time, need maintenance. And sometimes you get a situation like this where you get a flickering light, or these lights are LED lights, and they do go out from time to time, and they do need replacement. So today we're going to show you how to replace one of these on your own. It'll save you some money from having to take it into a dealer or an RV repair shop to have them do it. It's really simple, and just stay tuned. Okay, so some of the tools that you're going to need to replace this light is your first thing you're going to need is a small flat-headed screwdriver, and you're also going to need a Phillips head screwdriver. Now you can use power tools for this. I prefer not to use them simply because the material that this is made out of, it's really easy to strip your screws in and out if you give it too much pressure. So I'm going to do it by hand. Another tool that you're going to need to use is a good side cutting pliers to cut your wires. And then lastly, you're going to need some sort of pliers to be able to crimp your ends, or you can use the type of ends I'm going to be using today, which are simply just push in. I like them because they're nice and convenient. Now, the most important thing to remember is to make sure that you have all your power off before you start messing with your electricity. You don't want to end up like this guy. So the best thing to do is make sure that your switch is off. Make sure that your breaker is turned off on your rig. And if you need to, even just unplug it from the shore power. That way you make sure that everything on the rig is turned off. You don't really have to worry about it. All right. So the first thing we want to do now that our power is off is we just want to come up here and get our little flathead screwdriver. Up in here, there's a little notch up in here somewhere. And you just want to pry that out of there and expose the light. And then you want to take your flathead screwdriver, or your Phillips head screwdriver, excuse me, and just undo all the screws. Now, we'll fast forward through this a little bit so you guys don't have to wait so long to see all this. Okay, now that we have our screws out, all we need to do is simply just pull the light down out of the ceiling, and it will expose the wires that are there. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to take the lens cover and drop my screws in my lens cover so I know exactly where they are. I'm going to set them in a nice safe place so I don't lose them. Okay, so we're going to pull this out gently, and you can see that there's a bundle of wires with it, and in here they've got this wire nutted together. So two things you can do is you can either cut these wires and then restrip them to fit into the new ones. I am going to go ahead and try to preserve as much wire as I can, so that, because these go out quite frequently, that I'm not cutting the wire shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. So I'm going to try and loosen these wire nuts and just pull the wires out of them the way they are. Success. Okay, now that we've got our wire nuts taken off of them, we can go ahead and pull the wires off. And this is our bad light. We're going to set that aside so we don't mix that up with our good light. Now these lights are 4-inch puck lights is what they're called, and you can buy them on Amazon. I think I paid $35 for about 5 of them. So they're pretty cheap to have around and pretty easy to replace. So what I'm going to do now because I'm just going to clean up these wires a little bit. They're a little bit frayed. And now these are the connectors that we are going to be using. I'm going to bring this in a little bit closer. As you can see, all we have to do is push those connectors right in there and they'll lock in place. Nice and easy for the next time that we do this. So we'll take our new light with our wire, and what we're going to do is we're going to put one in one hole and just push it in. And then we're going to, now this wire is a little bit long, so I'm going to go ahead and just trim the edge off a little bit. And we'll push this into the other side. And we're going to do the same with the wire over here. Just trim it just a little bit. And we'll get our new connector. Push it into their holes. And then give them a slight tug just to make sure that they're nice and secure. And that's all there is to it. Now it's just a matter of pushing the wires back up into the cavity and putting your screws back in. And I'll do this. I'll turn the power back on and we'll take a look at the results. All right, so I've got the light mostly put back together. I just wanted to show you screwing it back in, the last final things. I've got the power turned back on. So a moment of truth is we're going to turn the switch on. And hey, look at that. No more flickering. So we're going to go ahead and turn that off. Now, it doesn't matter to turn the power back off because I'm just finishing up the tightening of the screws here. Again, I'm just using my hand tool because I don't want to over torque these screws and strip them out. You strip them out, then the light has the possibility of falling out of the ceiling, and nobody wants a light falling out of the ceiling. So we're going to take our new lens that we've got here. You could reuse the old lens if you so choose. I figure I paid for them, I'm going to use them. So that just snaps right back into place. Try it again, and voila. All right, guys, so moving on from our lights, so another piece of RV maintenance that you have to do is you have to kind of just inspect your rig once in a while, because especially in a Class C rig, when you're driving down the road, they say it's like your RV is going through a Class 4 hurricane, or not hurricane, but earthquake. Things shake, things move, things come loose. So every once in a while you gotta just kind of check things out. Now, the one thing that I did notice recently is we tried to close this door here and we couldn't do it. And what I found that in this track here, we found a screw that had just kind of worked its way back out. So what we've got to do is we've got to go through and just quickly tighten that screw back up. We'll just give it some quick twists. Again, I'm not using my power tools because I don't want to strip this out. We'll just tighten that up, and now the door should work fine again. So one of the other things that I noticed is that we have at the edge of our step here, we have a step guard. And what I've noticed here just in the past couple days is that this has come loose. Again, these screws here are a little bit loose. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give them a quick couple turns to make sure that it's nice and tight. Looks like we've got a couple more over here that need to be tightened. Now, these look like they might be a little bit stripped, so I might have to take these out and put some toothpicks or something in the center to make sure that they stay tight. So stay tuned for that. I'll be right back and we'll take care of that. Okay guys, so we're back. We've got our toothpicks now. Now, if you've not used this hack before, this works pretty handy, not only in your own house, but also in the RV. Whenever you've got some screws that are loose, whether it be in a cabinet hinge or something like that, anything that's wood, a good hack is what you do is you take some toothpicks and you insert them into the hole and you just break them off in the hole. And what that does is it fills that hole where it's actually missing it fills the gaps. When you put the screws back in, it bites into those toothpicks and it fills that gap between the two. And I can feel that that's grabbing better already. Now, depending on the amount of gap that you have, you may have to put more than one toothpick in there, but one should take care of it. All right. Okay, so that's much better. So that's how you would tighten up any screws that might be loose. So our last thing that we're going to cover in this video is caulk. Now, anything in your RV that has to do with water should be caulked, should be sealed. You've got caulk in your shower, you've got caulk around your sink. Now, as a maintenance item, especially around the sink, because with your sink you have these nice little inserts that cover your sinks. And what happens with these inserts is when you slide them in and out, is that they rub on that caulk that's between your sink and your countertop. And what happens over time is the caulk starts to fray, and if you look in here real closely, you can see that the caulk is kind of fraying in here. And what you don't want is you don't want water to get up underneath this laminate, because once it gets up underneath that laminate, it gets into that wood, and then it expands that wood, and then before you know it, you got to replace your countertop. So it's really important to make sure you get that caulked right. Now, I'm not going to do this for you today because this is one of my future items I need to do. It takes a little bit of time. But what you need to do is you need to come in here and you need to gently scrape all this caulk out of here. And then what you need to do is find some good silicone clear caulk at any of your Home Depots or Lowe's and a caulk gun, and then simply just re-caulk that item and smooth it out with a wet finger, and you're all good to go. So again, just a maintenance item that you need to do on your RV from time to time. All right, guys. Well, as you can see, RV maintenance is not as scary as it seems. So thanks for watching today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want to, please leave us a comment below. Let us know how you would like the video. Let us know other RV maintenance things you may want to see. And we'll see you next time between mile markers.